Hey everyone, so welcome to my first installment of my full ZBLL execution series. In this series, I'm going to be covering how I recognize each ZBL case and go over the algorithm I use, how to memorize it if that's applicable for that algorithm, and what I do to execute that. And then I will show high-speed executions of those algorithms. So since this is the first video of this series, I just want to go over a quick thing. I fully recommend learning COLL before you learn ZBLL, and if you don't average sub 15, I feel like learning full COLL isn't worth it, and I wouldn't recommend moving to ZBLL until you're at least sub 10, probably a little bit faster. I average around 8 seconds right now, so I felt like this made sense for me to start learning. So this is the first case we have here, and you'll notice we have adjacent colors on top. All 24 algorithms that I'll cover today are these cases, and the first 12 are going to be the ones where these colors match, this one and this one, the two greens, and the next 12 will be where the opposite sides are matching. And if you know full COLL, which again I fully recommend learning before you start ZBLL, it should be pretty easy to recognize which set of 12 you have. So for this case, the way I recognize it is you've got 3 2x1 blocks here, right? You've got this one, you have the opposite color one here, and then another one on this side. And the way you do it is you just do back soon and then cancel into this type of soon. And the execution I use for that is pretty straightforward. So you start in the neutral position, you do R prime, then the U prime with this finger, back up, again with that pointer finger, U2 double flick, and then R2 to cancel, and then I re-grip while I'm doing the U prime, and again re-grip while I'm doing the U, and then a lot of re-grips for that. But I can usually execute it pretty fast, and I'm not quite sure if there's a better way to do that. If you know, let me know in the comments, but normally I can execute that pretty fast, so I'm not too worried about it. All right, so for the second case here, we have this block that sort of looks like a Z perm, and that's all you need to know to recognize this. And technically, I think you only need to see one 2x2 block to recognize every single ZBLL, but most cases it's not easiest to do that, so for most of them I will just show you how I recognize for that specific case. But for this one it's pretty easy to recognize just by this block because it does look so similar to a Z-perm, and the algorithm for that looks like this. So for that execution, I start with a regrip, do R, U2 with the right hand, R, and then I do a D with my left ring finger, R prime, U2 double flick, and then I push with the ring finger, similar to E perm executions, then R prime, U2, R prime, and then regrip, U prime with the left pointer finger, and you just finish it off. This case is super easy to recognize because you have this solved block here, and then this 2x1 block on this side, and you actually execute it from this angle here. So the algorithm is exactly like the normal algorithm for the OLL for this case, except you do a couple fat R moves, which looks like this. So the way I execute this is I start with the regrip, do the R2, D with the ring finger, fat R prime, double flick, push with the ring finger, and then just finish it off. So for this case here, I recognize it by these two blocks, and it kind of looks like a J-perm, so also another pretty easily recognizable one. So to execute this, you actually hold this bar in the back, so you have opposite colors here on the front left, and the algorithm looks like this. So the way I execute that is pretty easy. You just start with a regrip, do the R2, D with a push, R prime, U, R, D prime with a push, R2, and then here I kind of do the U like that with my pinky, and then R, U2 double flick, R prime. Okay, this case is probably one of the hardest ones to recognize because this is the only block you have, and the rest of the cube, there really is no notable patterns. You kind of have this H-perm block back here, but I don't like to recognize this case using this block because it looks similar to a couple other ZBLL cases. So I just look at this block and notice that nothing else is matching. And the algorithm for this is a little bit long, but it's pretty fast to execute. So the way I execute this algorithm is I start in the neutral position, do R, U2 with the left hand, R2 prime, and then I push with my ring finger on the left hand, do R, U2, R prime, and then push back with the ring finger, then R2, U with the left hand, R prime, U2 double flick with the right hand, R, U2 left hand, R prime. Okay, this case is super easy because it's just the normal OLL that you use for this case. And the way you recognize it is with this huge solved block in the back. And it might get easily confused with the case I showed earlier, but this time you don't have the second bar, so it's just this block. And then the algorithm, you should already know, just goes like that. And the way I execute that is very similar to the algorithm I showed earlier with the fat moves. You just don't do the fat R's. So push with the ring finger, push back. Very easy. You should already be able to execute that in well under a second. For this case here, the only block you have is this green block here, which of course is going to be the same color as this. And you'll have the opposite color here. And that's how I recognize this. You also have this block in the back, but it's not really useful. So this algorithm is pretty easy to memorize. You just take this pair out, break it up, then you insert the edge back, then you do a U and a D at the same time, and then basically just pseudo slot that corner in the back and realign the bottom layer. So the execution for this case is pretty easy. You just start in your neutral position, do R, U prime with the left hand, R prime, and then another U prime, do R, double flick, R prime, and then at the same time you do the D with the left ring finger and U with the right pointer finger, so it would look like that. And then I regrip, take that out, U2 with the left hand, insert it, and then D with the left hand. Okay, so for this case, you have, similar to the last one, it kind of looks like a G-perm, except you'll have the block on the opposite side of the headlights. And that's the only block you have. It's also worth mentioning that these colors here will be opposite. There are some cases where they are adjacent colors, so it's easy to get them confused sometimes. The algorithm for this case looks like this. And the way I execute that is I start in your neutral position, left hand for the U, and then here do the R, U with the left hand, sort of like a push, and then I insert this pair back like this, push with the pinky, and then you do the F with the right hand, R, and then I do the F prime with the right thumb. Okay, so this case is one of my favorites, and the way I recognize it is you have this block here, again, that kind of looks like a G perm, but this time these colors are adjacent and you have this other block here. So this algorithm is actually pretty easy to memorize. It might first seem like just a bunch of random moves. All you're doing is taking this pair out. You're not doing an R to put this back yet though. Then you take this pair out, then you put this block back, and then insert this pair, and then insert that pair. And the way I execute that is just do R prime, U with the left hand, and then regrip, regrip again. Pretty simple execution. A couple regrips in there, but it's actually pretty fast because you can normally be doing moves with the other hand at the same time. So, all right, this case looks like one from earlier. I'm sure you already know that a lot of ZBLLs look very similar, so recognition can be hard, but this time you just have this block on the opposite side of the cube. And this is one of the few algorithms where I don't use the top suggested alg on AlgDB. I actually use the lowest one because for some reason I feel like it's a little bit faster. So the algorithm looks like this. So the way I execute that is I start with the thumb on top, do R2, and then push with the pinky like that, and then F with the thumb, and then slight regrip. And then here you do all the U moves with the left hand, alternating directions for the R2s, and then I do the F with the pointer finger, and then R2. Okay, so I mentioned this case a little bit earlier, where I said you have a block that looks kind of like an H perm, except in the other case you had a block here and the H perm was in the back. And the algorithm for this can be a little bit awkward at first, but once you get used to it, it can be pretty fast. So the way I execute that is do the U primes with the left hand. Then here you kind of have to regrip like that. And then U2 with the right hand, L, U2. And then while I'm doing that U2, I kind of bring my thumb here, or like that. And then normally I kind of execute it like that. So I bring my thumb to the bottom. You can also regrip for that and do it like this, whichever works best for you. All right, and then the very last case for the first set of 12 is this one, where you don't have any blocks, and this one you really have no patterns to recognize it by. And this one's actually fairly easy to recognize because of that. Everything else has some recognizable pattern on it. This one doesn't really have anything, so it's pretty easy to recognize because of that. And the algorithm I use looks like this. So another long one that you kind of just have to brute force memorize, but this one can be executed very, very quickly. So my execution for this case looks like this. U with the pointer finger on the right hand, U2 with the left hand, and then as I'm doing this R prime, I adjust my left ring finger to do that D push, R, U, R prime, and then push back, and then R2, push with the left hand, R prime. All right, then we're halfway through the video. On to the next set of 12. Okay, so for the next 12 algorithms, these are all going to be mirrors of the algs we just learned. So you're going to have this color matching with this corner here. And because a lot of these are mirrors, most of these algorithms are just going to be mirrors of the algorithms before, just executed from the back. So it sticks with using R and U moves. So because these all look basically identical to the 12 we just talked about, I'm not going to talk too much about recognition here because it is just mirror cases. So for this first algorithm, it's going to be the one with all the blocks. And the way I execute that is I start with the thumb on top and this finger ready to push. U2 with the right hand, push back, U2 with the right hand again, and then finish. This next case, again, looks like one we had before, and this time you execute it with the opposite colors in the back. So my execution for this, again, start with the thumb on top and ring finger ready to push. Do the R2 this way, push, U prime with the left hand, push back, R2, left hand, double flick with the left hand. So for this case, this is the one with the 3 2x1 blocks, and the algorithm I use is this. And my execution for that looks like this. Push with the left hand. This is just as soon. And then cancel, push with the right pinky. Regrip the left hand. And then just finish it. So this is the case with the Z perm block here. And this time you execute it with the block in the back. And this is just the same algorithm as before, just in the back this time. And I start with the thumb on top, ready to push. U2 with the right hand, push it. U2 with the right hand again, push back. And then push with the left hand for the U move there. And then right hand U move and finish it off. This is just the regular COL algorithm for this case. You have this single block here, and it looks like this. You probably already know that one. And my execution for that is very similar to the one with the fat moves. Basically the same thing. Start with the thumb on top, push with that ring finger, U2 right hand, D with a push again. This is the case with just this single block here. And the algorithm is this. And my execution of this algorithm looks like this. Ring finger, right hand U2, push back with the ring, and then this is another U with the pinky, U2 left hand. This is the case with this G perm looking block here, and you'll notice that this color matches these colors, and the algorithm is just a mirror of the one from before. My execution for this looks like this. Do the U with the pinky, U2 left hand, and then of course D prime and U prime at the same time. U2 with the right hand, and then the D. All right, for this case here, you have, again, this G' looking block, but the bar is on this side. And the algorithm for this is totally new. It looks like this. So my execution for that looks like this. Push with the ring finger. Again, push with the ring finger. And then here, the R2, push for the U, and then you regrip to thumb on top, U', U2 with the right hand, and then finish it. For this algorithm, you have the bar on this side and nothing else. And this algorithm is very similar to the previous one, just a slight variation at the end. So my execution for that, the beginning is the exact same as before. And then here I regrip to thumb on bottom, R2, U2 with the left hand, R2', sorry, U', and then regrip, finish it like that. The algorithm for this case with the two 1x2 blocks is the same as before, just mirrored. So you start with the left hand, put the pair back, and solve that one. My execution looks like this. Start with left thumb on top, U with the right hand, sort of regrip like that, and then regrip the left hand, regrip the right hand, left hand, and then insert. So again, quite a few regrips, but this is actually a very fast algorithm. So this is the case that doesn't have any blocks or patterns to recognize, and it's just the mirror of the one before. And my execution for that starts like this. You do the U with the pinky, U' with the left hand, and then U2 with the right hand. Then you'd push with this ring finger, push with the ring finger again, and then cancel into inserting that. So for the very last case that I'm going to show in this video, this is the H' block case that's the mirror of the one before. And you hold the cube like this, and the algorithm looks like that. So my execution for that is push with the left hand, then with the right hand, and then regrip the right hand, U2, regrip again, U2. Alright, so that wraps up this video of covering the first 24 ZBLL U cases with the adjacent colors on top. In the next few weeks, I'll hopefully be able to make videos about the next 48 algorithms, so I can get all of those out for you guys soon. Until then, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.